Good morning to you all, beautiful people. Good morning, many blessings to you all on this wonderful Wednesday morning. So, this morning I'm going to be talking about the beautiful quality, benevolent quality of serenity, which is a nice follow-on from Friday where I spoke about grace. And since then, if I'm honest with you, my soul's been screaming at me all weekend. Serenity, serenity, that's the word that keeps going over and over in my head. So I'm just obeying and doing as I'm told. So this morning I'm going to talk a little about serenity and what that means for Karen in her life. And in doing so, I'm going to share a little bit of my story. So at some point in my life, I embarked on a program called the 12 Steps. And I'm not going to go into that. That's not what I'm here to talk about this morning. I'm here to talk about serenity. And so I'm going to go straight into this. On the 12 steps, you are to complete 12 steps. That's why it's called the 12-step program. Anyway, when I got to step 3, I didn't know what step 3 was, but I knew step 3 was going to be a life changer for me. I just knew that. I knew there was 12 steps to follow without even looking at the steps, but I just knew mentally that step 3 was going to be a game changer for me. And actually, when I did get to look at the steps and I saw what step 3 was, it absolutely was a game changer for I. I just want to share the step 3 with you, the prayer, which is step 3. So here we go. So it says, God, I offer myself to thee to build with thee as thy wilt. Relieve me of thy bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Okay? So, to me, this step was something I'd never really come across in my life. Remember, as I said, I'm not a religious person. So even using the word God, I have an understanding of what that word means for most. We've been brought up, led to believe, that there's this God that's external, that's outside of us, that we pray to, we ask for help, we seek advice. So very much at that time, I was still seeking outwardly, if I'm honest. We're going back 6-7 years. I was still seeking outwardly. I believe that there was, at that point in my life, as I said, it wasn't about religion, but I did believe, and I've always believed throughout my entire life, let's get this straight, since I was little. When I was a little girl, I used to blow love hearts up to God, before I went to sleep, one for him and one for me. So I've always had a connection with God of some sort. I was never brought up with a religion, but I always had a connection with a God of my understanding from I was a very little girl. So this step was really, was a life changer for me. As I said, how do you turn your will over to the God of your understanding? So with the step 3, even though I went through the step 3 quite quickly, after about a month, I had moved on to step 4. But I'm going to tell you truthfully what happened to me on step 3. I mentally got stuck on step 3 for about probably a year and a half, where every day, this was like my conundrum, my brain conundrum, like, how do I hand my will over to my higher power? How do I hand my will over to a God of my understanding? So every day I'd wake up, before I went to bed, throughout the day, it would always be in my mind, You know, earnestly seeking, earnestly, I'd be chanting the prayer over and over again. Sometimes, I don't know how many times in a day, but lots of times. You know, we could be talking hundreds. And I spent a long time just trying to figure out, is this right? Am I doing this right? It's not topic of conversation, is it? You know, you speak to one of your friends. Oh, hi, Karen. How are you? What have you been up to today? Oh, I've been handing my will over to, you know, my will to the God of my understanding. You know, it's not something you really talk about with people. How do you do this? How do you hand over your will? So step 3 was a big one for me. It was a life changer. I spent a long time working with this. And why I'm talking about step 3 and serenity is because in the process of handing my will, or trying in vain in my earnest to seek to hand this over, what started to happen was, after a while, I just realized that, you know, my thoughts were more peaceful. I was a lot more calmer in myself internally, how I felt about Karen internally. There was a stillness and there was a quietness that was being accumulated as each day passed, as each day went forward and went on and on. I started to really understand that most of my perceived problems that I had in my life were just that. It wasn't really real. They was all in my head. They were perceived. They was how I was filtering was the issue. How I was filtering beforehand, how I was filtering through my life, things that were happening. It was how I was dealing, the coping mechanisms that I had in place to deal with certain things. They were outdated. So the more I handed over my will, in all earnest, daily, God, I offer myself to thee to build of me as thy will. Relieve me of thy bondage of self so I may better do thy works. Every day I was chanting this through. And as I said, in the most subtle, most beautifulest of ways, without even realizing it, serenity came in to my life. And I just remember waking up one day and just feeling this inner glow, this inner peace, this feeling of almost untouchable, to be honest. I felt that there's nothing anymore in this life that can hurt me, touch me, can do the damage that was done before. I felt totally safe. I felt so totally protected and actually in awe. Because that was the realization that through practice of earnestly seeking to hand over my will, which in hindsight was me really earnestly seeking for peace, because I was saying, I can't do this anymore. I surrender. I'm handing it all over to you. Yeah, use me as the instrument, but I don't want any of the shit in my life anymore. Yeah, I'm done with the shit, handing it to you. So each day I was handing it over, handing over. And I didn't realize at the time, but this was a very powerful process that I was going through. I was sifting, cleansing, clearing on a daily basis. And what came in to my life through doing this was serenity. Serenity, which if you look it up in the English dictionary, means a state of being calm and collective and peaceful with your thoughts. So I don't know why, I just wanted to share this with you today, guys, because serenity is, again, to me, it's in the top of tops. It's in the top 10 of my chosen qualities to have in your life. Serenity. So the message I'm leaving with everyone today is just practice being serene. Being serene. And that doesn't mean you have to do anything out of the normal. You don't have to pretend, oh, I'm so peaceful. My life is so peaceful. No, no, no. When any, conflicting thoughts come into your mind, or, you're trying to suppress them and push them out and control them. No, that's not serenity. That's control. That's mind control. That's suppression. Okay? That's completely far, far removed from serenity. When the thoughts come, we let them come. We sit with them. We observe them. We observe them float through like a cloud in the sky. Yeah? That's serenity. You don't attach. Non-attachment. We're not attaching onto the thoughts anymore. And that's what serenity has brought in to my life, Karen. Peace. It's like I've got a background screen always in my life, like a curtain in a theatre, the black curtain or a white curtain, whatever. It's like I've got a curtain screen in my life that's always there. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have to deal with crap or situations that hurt me or make me feel slightly angry, or I don't lose it now and then. Of course I do. I'm human. I'm like everyone else. But the difference is I return to my homeostasis very quickly, because behind it all is my screen of serenity. And she always taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, you, back in line. So I get back in line very, very quickly. Serenity, practice being serene, guys. Peaceful, quiet, and still. I've gone way over again, 12 minutes. Maybe I'm going to have to stretch these blogs out to 15 minutes because there's still so much I want to say. But I'm going to leave it there today. Be serene. Serenity. Just say that. Serenity. Surrender to serenity. There we go. Beautiful. That's the tip for the day. We're surrendering to our serenity. I love you all. Keep smiling. Keep loving your hearts. And remember, serenity. 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 See you soon. God bless.